How is it that a BaZi Chinese astrology chart can be so embattled? And how does that play out in your life? This is the update of Donald Trump's current life in regards to the trial going on. Welcome. This is Lydia Nitya with Karma Chameleon, and often we like to cover the charts of celebrities and famous people to better understand our own lives and our own charts. So welcome again. And if this is of interest to you, please subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss a single video. And just saying, I did include him in the 2024 presidential predictions video that I posted just the other day. And I've been kind of loosely following some of this trial. I find trials just intriguing. The one with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, I swear, I think I'd lose my life if we had trials like that going on the regular, because they're fascinating. There's so much to be understood with what makes a person tick and how we get into these situations. Now, I just want to say that when it comes to these political, very politically charged characters in our lives, that I look at this like this is an ordinary person living in an ordinary life. I am not putting any of my opinion in here, my personal opinion, okay? Completely objective looking at this. And Donald Trump's chart, I remember when I was getting my master's level of BaZi Chinese astrology, that we were looking at his chart, and it is just inflamed. It actually surprises me how he has gotten this far. When you look at the history of who Donald Trump is, if you look at his history, this is someone who was bullied by his father, emotionally abandoned by his mother. And in some ways, you can feel a great deal of empathy for this person. He is kind of like that kid that was bullied that turns into the bully. And it's not to justify, but it's to better understand why certain behaviors become your personality and character. Failure and being a loser, you might as well be dead. According to his father and as a result of growing up in that culture, that is him. The worst thing in the world for him is to lose. And so he can't lose. And he's created a life in which he has kind of bubble wrapped himself in a way where he kind of has safeguarded himself from really like, you can't touch me. Now, interesting, his chart, he's born June 14th, 1946, 9:54 in the morning. His chart is so out of balance, first of all. He has 42% fire, 53% of his own element, which means that what supports him and his own element are so inflamed, there's hardly anything else. There's 4% metal, what he creates and produces. Water, none. That's his wealth. Wood, his career and marriage, 13%. So all of the focus and all of the energy is on who is supporting me and who's in my inner circle. And don't forget, it's all about me. Yeah. Now, one of the first kinks in this armor that he has, and I would imagine this is somebody that really is armored. And that's from the trauma of his childhood. So he has a jailbird chart because there is so much, it's too much support. You can have too much of a good thing. He's got too much support, 42%. And this is usually shows, it's a penalty that implies that the support of the mother is overwhelming to the point where a person can't thrive in life, can't achieve success. And because his own day master element of earth is so inflated, it doesn't qualify. So in the same way that he has a Lu pattern in his chart that is suggestive of somebody, it's like contradictions everywhere, destined to wealth, except because his own element is so inflated, it doesn't qualify. It's kind of like you're already going to have that because this is so big. Your own element is so big. So you have these two opposing almost narratives, and then you add to the fact that his void animals are horse and sheep, which is his month where his parents sit, and his day where he and his marriages sit, and his relationships, all of them. Yeah. And what is a void? I've often said, if you have a void year, for instance, it's like walking knee deep through mud in a fog. Everything takes more effort, hard to achieve goals, hard to make clear decisions, hard for things to feel like they're flowing. So when you have it in your actual birth chart, it can suggest an abandonment of relationship. For instance, in the month, I would say having that be his older siblings and his parents shows a fracture in either physically or emotionally. So if you're physically abused or emotionally abandoned, those things sit in a void in the month, okay? And also can suggest that you're separated from your parents, or that maybe they live in one country, you live in another, things like that. It can also, in your day pillar where it is for him, it shows somebody that is just inconsistent. Again, it's like you're going through life, walking through mud, in a fog. Your senses are heightened to stay on guard. What's happening? And, in this is where it's very hard to hold on to a romantic relationship. And again, there can be physical or emotional separation or distance. And his life pillar is a horse. It's in void. His whole life really has this flavor of void. Now, he was born into wealth, and he was born into this privilege. And in a lot of ways, that is what has propped him up. But it's always, if you go back over all of his business history, it has always been plagued with lawsuits and bankruptcies and all of this. I mean, you can literally track it. And yet he is this huge character, this big persona. And I said in the 2024 presidential candidate video, I don't see this as a viable candidate for the next election. I just don't see it. He is so embattled. So let's rewind back to this now moment. All right. So, pardon, I took notes. This is just, there's so much to this chart. So in this now time, November 15th, just this week, he has shifted from a conflicted decade in a yin metal ox, which for the whole 10 years, and I've mentioned this is also happening to the United States in the chart of the United States, it's also happening. Oh, and I will be posting an update on the astrology of the United States for 2024 coming up soon. Just make that note. So again, hit the bell so you don't miss these things. Got lots of New Year updates, lots of things to say about the Year of the Dragon. All right, so also Joe Biden, President Biden, his chart also, he is born in the day of the ox and he's in a luck cycle of the sheep. It's kind of switched, but the same thing is happening. It's a direct hit to the day master and it's a direct hit to your sovereignty. Literally your life force. You are under attack. It is not a happy place to be, and it can deeply impact your romantic relationships and your overall welfare. So that is where he's been for this last decade. So it's a lot of family stresses, and both his fire, which is his support, and his earth, which is his self, and also his tribe, if you will, have all been weakened and harmed. His focus is solely on himself and all that he's doing to prove himself, to defend himself, and ultimately to save himself from failure, from losing. These trials, you know, we are in a time where truth is coming out. And all kinds of astrologers, Western and Eastern, have been talking about this as we move towards the age of Aquarius. Truth is coming out. And with that, a lot of these people who have been shirking around and been able to cut corners and find loopholes and things like that, it just doesn't fly anymore. Business as usual does not apply now. So, failure is not an option, and yet, the next 10 years, he's moving now at this moment. He's been transitioning. I'm sure this whole half of this 2023 has felt really unstable for him. When you're going through a luck cycle shift, it can feel unstable. The waters are moving. It's brackish, right? So he's moving into a yang water tiger, and water is the enemy to a chart like this, right? The tiger is surging in a big fire trio, okay, with his dog year and horse month, which really, you know, the yang water is sitting on top without having any water in your chart. It's just there as an irritation and doesn't really hold a lot of power. The focus is marriage, family, wealth, property, and his health. And all are the focus with continued jeopardy to his future and to his fortune and more legal battles. Because the yin tiger in his snake, the hour of his career is ruled by the animal of the snake, says a lot about his career that it's a snake. So the shift happening is lifted off of him being a direct hit to him, and now it's a direct hit to his career and his children. And you remember they've testified, and he's not the kind of person that I would imagine if somebody, even his own children, turn against him or their testimony harms him in some way, that he wouldn't turn his back on them too. Again, it's all about saving himself. Okay, so let's look at October, which is when the trial really kind of took off. And this was focused very much on his responsibilities, his family. And the dog, which rules the month of October, just aggravates this punishment that he has built in his chart between the dog and the sheep. and this exiting out ox luck cycle, which is a full punishment, suggesting incredible stress that takes a toll on your welfare, your well-being, your health, and tends to be very entwined and entangled with your family. So we've got this loss of face, a loss of support, and loss of money, and again, this aggravation to this penalty that's already in his chart. And then we come into November, where we are now, and this is yin wood pig, and so there's a huge focus on his career right now, with a lot of sudden jolts and shakeups and surprises and criticism and judgment and threat to his sovereignty, to his reputation. And this is also about his career, his family, Melania, the money, the property, all of it. The pig is the worst month for him because, and that's November. Every November is like a direct hit to his career and his relationships to his kids. So like the worst of the worst would be a pig year and a pig month and a pig year, right? Because there's this battle with his snake, between the conflict with the snake and the pig this month is just like, feels to me like somebody just taking alcohol and pouring it on an open wound. You know, it's like, this just burns. It's like, wow. So, so this is going to go into December. No doubt this will continue into December when we have a yang fire rat. And this brings a lot of focus to legal matters, to the government. Health issues are possible. And there is money. There's money coming into him. Maybe it's donations. I don't know. But he's millionaire, so there's plenty of money flowing in for him. And then when we come into January is interesting because this is a yin fire ox, and it's like an echo of the luck cycle he just left. You just came out of this luck cycle in which the ox is battling your sheep self, and now we have a month kind of saying, hey, remember. And so much conflict is surrounding him now. It kind of feels like it's all coming to a crescendo. And just such an embattled chart, an embattled man. And there's a point where you take in all of the components and add to that his age, and add to that the way forward. What is that way forward? And I think, having just moved into this yin tiger, this tiger luck cycle, suggesting that the next 10 years is just continued lawsuits, legal battles, health crisis all around his career and his children. Just feels like the worst case scenario for him. And I don't think the dragon year is going to make it any easier. I think there's going to be there's going to be a loss of money. There's a lot of kind of tug of war with both his career and his finances. It's so embattled. It's so inflamed and aggravated right now. And I am curious to see how this all works out. I I think this is kind of where it all comes. It's like a reckoning. That's what it is. That's what it's, I think that's kind of the best word to wrap it all up. Your comments and questions are welcome. Please keep it positive. And like I said, this could be Donald Trump. This could be Joe Schmo from down the street that mails letters every day. But his chart is a fascinating one. When you have one that is this out of balance, and what a character he is, for sure. And it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. So thank you so much for watching. Be well.